Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie here with my co-host, Matty B. And it happened. The Eagles saved America. They came in. They opened a can on the Chiefs. It was embarrassing for Patrick Mahomes. I will say this. Tom Brady never got blown out in a Super Bowl like that. And now it's happened twice to Mahomes and the Chiefs. Tom Brady put a beat down on him a few years ago. And now it's like a whole different thing. And I'm a little bit concerned about the NFL TV ratings wise. Because we talked about this a little bit ago. And the TV ratings for the Super Bowl, they announced they're going up. Now, just because they went up doesn't mean anything, because they changed the way they calculated it. And I bring this up early because one of the lowest Super Bowls in recent times was that Buccaneers beatdown of the Chiefs. They try to talk about how the Chiefs they're like America loves them. Ratings are going up. And even we talked about it last week. I forgot that now they just guess how many people aren't watching at home. Like they just add in extra numbers for TV ratings that they don't know. They think of like, all right, well, about 1,000 people aren't home. They must be watching the game at the bar. So they just add it in to the number. So if you go back and look, Fox was like, hey, we hit 126 million or something like that, 25, which is ahead of what CBS reported last year that also had the fake numbers. And Fox also added in streaming to the number, which gives you a hard count. But I'm still concerned that everyone has streaming now. If you're watching a game, there's a good chance your game's getting disconnected and you have to reconnect 2-3 times a game. Minimum. You can agree with me. Like everyone knows that that's how it is. So is Fox counting those numbers 3 times? Are they filtering by IP address? Because that would be what they would need to do. But because the TV ratings people came back and they're just adding in random numbers because they're saying, well, these are the people that are out of home. Well, guess what? Go back 5-10 years ago. People left their home. So the numbers from previous years should have been higher. Not now. I think I think the numbers went down. Personally. I feel like them just adding in the out of home, adding in millions of people out of home, and adding in streaming, which some people have it on 2 devices, man. Because if they do the extra cams, like I don't know if they do this, but I know some of the streaming apps, they had like the different broadcast. Some people have both up. And if you're counting just pure streaming numbers, does it count twice? I just don't know. I didn't get a big vibe of a lot of people wanting to watch the Super Bowl this year. It wasn't like there weren't a lot of hype. Last year, I think a lot of people were into it because of the Niners and like Christian McCaffrey and stuff. Let's be honest, not a lot of people like the Eagles. Maybe that's my Pittsburgh bias coming out, but like I never run into people that are just like, oh, one team I don't mind. The Eagles, I'll pull for them. No one has ever told me that they casually pull for the Eagles, right? I've heard about like people say like, oh man, you went to Michigan? I always pull for the Lions because they're bad. Like no one says like, hey, I'm going to pull for the Eagles. Like no, most people hate Philadelphia. If you're not from like Pennsylvania or up there, maybe It's Always Sunny brought people back a little bit. But I'm just concerned that the TV ratings, because even like did that happen for the college football playoffs? Because, I mean, like, the championship game dropped again from Michigan's game last year. And if they're adding in even more fake numbers this year, does that mean that game did even worse than I thought? Because that's what I think the NFL, like, you can't just add in random streaming numbers and other out-of-home fake people that you think are watching it at the bar. That just seems like fake numbers. It's like the same thing if people like watch video games or whatever. Right now, the game Roblox is like big among kids. They're getting investigated by the stock market exchange or the SEC, whatever it is, that they're just inflating their streaming numbers, right? Because there's no way for people to check. Fox can say like, oh yeah, 10 million people watched on Tubi, so we're going to add that to our 110 that actually watched. And heck, that wasn't even watched. They probably had 100 million on regular TV, the regular numbers, right? Which is just an estimate anyway. Then they add in an extra 10 from streaming. Then they add in an extra 15 or whatever from people at the bar, they said. Boom. But you can't just guess like that, right? That's what Roblox is reportedly doing. They're reporting to their shareholders that like, oh yeah, kids are engaged, but they're not really they're not really tracking the time. So they're just making the numbers up. And apparently a whistleblower was like, look, these numbers are like inflated by half. I'm going to wait, but I'm assuming that TV numbers are pretty much the same. Because number one, they can't track how many people are watching for free over the air like I did. They guess. They can track streaming, but like I said, I know whenever people like watch the show like on YouTube or something, that those numbers aren't really accurate. Even some of like our download numbers, like sometimes we get really high, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it says people bounce like after a couple minutes. We don't know. Unless they really watch it on one platform, they don't know how many people download the show or whatever. Unless we're really putting in ads and telling people like, yo, click this link after. You don't know. Like we can get some Spotify numbers because we host there. That's it, but not everyone listens on Spotify. I mean, even me, I don't have Spotify. I have Apple Music. So it wouldn't count me if I listened to our own show, let alone Fox knowing how many people are watching on streaming. So that's my early rant on the Super Bowl. And I brought it up because of that. They kept talking about how Tom Brady's last Super Bowl win was like one of the lowest watched ones. But that was before they started making up numbers. So you don't know. How do we know that it even went back up? Maybe the numbers are just going down, like ESPN. They're like, yeah, but they kind of went up in percentage-wise because we lost 20 million more people. Win-win, baby. Win-win. Looking at the game, though, I had some people comment. They told me things not to say, Matt. This is a little bit of question and answer to kick us off. Someone wanted me to ask about my man, Tom Brady. Why does he look so sick on TV? I don't know. He doesn't have the playing weight anymore. He just looks like a normal dude. So he can't be out there jacked up, running around like a football player. He just hasn't gained a bunch of weight like other guys that have used to play. So tell me that Tom Brady looks sick is not something that affects me watching the game. I like how Tom Brady calls out the officiating.
I already sent the link over.
I'll say that I don't think a lot of commentators call out the officiating like he does. He probably gets a little bit more leeway because he's an owner / the greatest player of all time. But most people cannot call out the officiating like that. I feel like they'd be on thin ice. Now, the rest of the entrance to the game, weird. The entire like setup to the game, like I know it was in New Orleans, they had stuff, but like overall, the game itself, pretty fair officiating, I'd guess. They started off having some weird calls against the Eagles, like that first pass interference. Then the next drive they had a makeup call that gave the Eagles in position for a touchdown that gave them the lead, and then they never trailed or anything. So at first it looked like it was going to happen, but the Eagles didn't have to blitz. They said they didn't blitz anybody. They only rushed 4 every play. Chiefs couldn't block them. Chiefs looked like they were and barely hanging on all season long. All season long, the Chiefs looked like they were just barely winning. And I was hoping that the Eagles smacked them. I thought it would be a lot closer of a game just because it seemed like the Chiefs were able to just do enough to get close. But I wonder if the NFL regrets some of those questionable calls that happened on the AFC side of the playoffs. They were really pushing for a three-peat. A lot of people I heard said like, oh yeah, the NFL really wants like a three-peat champion. This would be the first time they could really market the Chiefs. Saw a couple articles on how the dynasty is good for sports and how that's whenever there's a dynasty in a league, whether it's like the Celtics, Lakers, or even Golden State lately in basketball, you have kind of like the Dodgers or the Yankees when those teams are doing great. And then in the NFL, when you have a team that's repeatedly getting in there, like Tom Brady with the Patriots and now Mahomes, it drives up ratings because people tune in to either cheer for them or they tune in the hope that they lose. And personally, I know that makes sense from a marketing standpoint or whatever, but normally I just kind of want more fairness. Like, I don't care to see Mahomes. If he drops out a couple years, like, fine. Like, if he deserved to lose to the Bills or even the Texans earlier when they kept getting all those roughing the passers, we want to see a fair game. I don't want the officiating to impact the game. And I think we saw them get too far into it that when they got in the Super Bowl, the officiating couldn't bail the Chiefs out. And I also wonder if they were like looking over their shoulder, because the officiating had to have known that, hey, we can't make questionable calls in the Super Bowl too much because people are going to know. They're already looking at it. I mean, heck, if I was going to bet, the one thing I would have bet on is that the Eagles would have had more penalties. I'm sure you could bet on that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that you could, but honestly, I felt like it wasn't as lopsided as what we've seen all year. And I know that, granted, that's part of it. That you're looking at, like, all year, like we talked about it, where the Chiefs in these close matchups, if the calls go the other way at the end of the game, they were like they were ranked one of the worst teams in the NFL. And I feel like Gronk even kind of called them out. I think you were saying too, where they were like, yeah, just rush 4 and sit back in coverage and let Mahomes run around and throw interceptions. And then they like real quick cut to commercial. We're like, you can't say that. You're going to ruin the dynasty.
Well, that's like, I know you're out. But I was saying, like, I wonder if the NFL officiating got into both the Chiefs' heads and even like the NFL, to where they pushed the Chiefs along, it felt like, all year. Questionable calls, they kept winning. And then in the biggest game, officiating's not going to be able to save them from a juggernaut. They couldn't do anything. Like that, it just seemed like the Chiefs were not the second best team in the NFL, and I think we could have got a better matchup. I think we could have got a better matchup elsewhere, and I felt like the questionable calls throughout the AFC side of the bracket, I wonder if the NFL is regretting it now. Because, like, there were some holes. Like, Chiefs couldn't block all year. They kept winning barely. There were so many times where it was like, oh, my gosh, how did they win that game? And then they get home field advantage, and that's a big part of it, too. Because it's not just in the AFC side of the playoffs. If some of those questionable calls from the regular season go the other way, Chiefs might not have had home field advantage. Maybe the Bills do. Maybe the Bills are in the Super Bowl. Maybe we get a better Super Bowl. That was not, if you were an actual football fan, that was not a fun game to watch. I'm glad that the Eagles poured it on, because that deep pass to Smith, right whenever the Eagles had to lead, that was a call I would have made. Because I thought, right here, you have them.
Well, and you know what? It's funny that you say that, because I felt like early on, the Eagles just kept pissing away opportunities, and I thought, oh, here we go. They're already setting the table to allow the Chiefs to stay close to this game. It was like they had the interception close to the end zone. They were driving down. They had the missed field goal. I'm like, you know, you can't, if you're going to win games like this, you can't leave points on the table. You have to capitalize on it. And it was just like, it had that early feel of, oh, here we go. And then I felt like the Cooper DeJean pick 6 was a big turning point for the Eagles, because it was like, finally, one of those breaks that typically goes towards Kansas City broke for Philly.
Yeah, it was that one that I knew broke the game open. I did look it up so I don't forget. Eagles did have more penalties, so you could have won that bet. I think that's like the safest bet all year, right? Bet against. I wonder if you go back through the games, how many times the Chiefs had the more penalties? Probably not that many. I'm just making that up as I go on the fly. But in the Super Bowl, that would have been a safe bet. But going back to your point, Eagles looked like they were in control. They just couldn't punch it in. And I've seen that so many times from like, even with like a Harbaugh coach team with the Ravens, like John and Jim both, to be honest, when he was in Michigan, like you're kind of just hanging on thinking, all right. And I thought at some point, something has to go their way because they weren't even doing anything. Like they were just rushing 4. And I'm like, all right, this is going to work out pretty good because they were getting pressure. I mean, Brandon Graham from like Michigan's old guy, he was playing with the ripped tricep or whatever. Wasn't even fully healed. He had the Ray Lewis thing going on. I joked weeks ago about sending him deer antler spray. Must have worked, dude. That one play, he threw that guy down and then just crushed Mahomes. And I thought, any other game, that could have been a penalty. We got to be careful out there, dude. What are you doing? You trying to blow the game? But but once the Eagles had that, and the thing that the Chiefs did that I knew that they were in trouble, they sold out to stop Barkley, and they weren't really stopping Hurts at all. They didn't have like a spy on him a couple times, and he was just running wild for like 15 yards. And this was even late in the game. Like the Chiefs need to stop. They don't have a spy on Hurts. Like, what are they doing? I was very like intrigued. Like I didn't know what the hell their game plan was in the second half to stop them. But when they came out and the announcers talked about, well, here we're going to see the Eagles come in and just run the clock out with Barkley. And that's exactly what the Chiefs thought. And the first play was like that bomb. And I thought that's what I would have called. I would have threw one bomb because I know they're gonna come out to stop the run. And then honestly, probably what I would have did is started to just read option with Barkley and Hurts. And I don't think the Chiefs would have stopped it. Like something out of left field just to keep the clock running because the Chiefs were getting no time to throw the ball. And I knew like they're not going to get anything. I did think it was kind of weird that the Eagles had clearly put their backups in. And then the Chiefs were still out there trying to like score and kick onside kicks. It's like, it's over. It was over whenever they got that one sack. When I texted you like game over, boys, whatever happened, I forget what it was. It was a defensive stop like in the third quarter. And I knew with just doing the calculation in my head, I knew they didn't have enough drives. They would have had to hit 4 onside kicks or something. It was like it was like 30 something to 6. And then the Eagles scored anyway. Right after that, again, it was like 40-6. And I thought, man, I was surprised that they went for 2 because, to be honest, at that point when they went for 2, I think it was 27. Maybe it was 34. It was 34. They didn't need to go for 2. If they'd have kicked the field goals and scored the 5 touchdowns, they would have won 35-34. But when they went for 2, I thought it's over. They're thinking that they cannot stop the Eagles. They have to chase points. Because at that point, it doesn't make sense. 4 times 8 is 32.
Hello, sir.
They would have still been 2 points down. So them coming in and just chasing points, it made no sense at all. Like they were thinking, well, the Eagles are at least going to get another field goal. Because even if they would have hit all 2, it wouldn't have mattered. Like maybe they were thinking, all right, we'll get 4 touchdowns and 4 2-point conversions, and we'll get a game-winning field goal at the end. Nah. You might as well just kick the field goal and hope that and play, hey, we're going to score 5 touchdowns in the second half and we're going to win 35-34. Because otherwise you're just chasing points. And then the next thing, like that could have been the game. Like that could have tied the game. If like a miracle would have happened and they would have came back. And people would have asked about that first 2-point conversion and said, like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Because I thought even when they didn't get the drive right in the second half, and the Eagles got the ball back, I thought if they hold them to a field goal here, it'd be 27-0. It would be the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. And all they would need is 4 touchdowns, though. but then the Eagles just scored again. It was like unbelievable. They couldn't stop them. They couldn't do anything. And they just looked out of sorts. It looked like a team that didn't prepare. It looked like a team that had all season where they kept just winning, getting favorable calls. Everyone could see it. Them getting in the Super Bowl, people were penciling them in as Chief Pete's or whatever the hell they were calling it. Oh, they're going to get another Super Bowl win here. Might as well just start making up slogans for them and selling their things. And it just came back to just having too many things. Too many things that they weren't good at. That the Eagles are better at them. On paper, the Eagles looked like they were the much better team. An Eagle buddy of mine was like, I think we're going to win like 33-9 or 33-6. I was like, really? I think the Eagles will win, but I think it's going to be close. And I'm really cheering for them. But, I mean, he was right. On paper, the Eagles just looked like they were that much better. And just people talking about Hurts, like not being a good quarterback. He's not a normal pocket passing quarterback, but that doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. I mean, honestly, he's like a better Russell Wilson. If you think about it, Russell Wilson could try to like scramble and things and he could kind of pass, but he wasn't like able to do what Hurts does on the ground. They can offset it. And you can't say that Hurts can't throw deep. He threw the touchdown to seal the game on that. Whenever they got the ball back, they took a shot right away. They very easily could have just ran Saquon a couple of times. And heck, that's why I said, if you go to a read, they were letting Hurts do whatever. So you could have just faked a handoff to Barkley 3 plays in a row and let Hurts run. They probably would have been in field goal range in no time until they would have overcorrected it. And then what? Then you're just running an option? They probably practiced that. I mean, I would. If you have Barkley and Hurts, you should have an option play ready to go. I just don't know next year because the Eagles had that. They tanked last year. That's why I think a lot of people forget how good the Eagles have been. They had Barkley. Everyone came back.
Which I think just goes to show for signing Barkley, the NFL really wants to try to devalue running backs. But I mean, if you have the ability to pull a good quality running back, it really can shift the dynamic of your offense.
Well, look at McCaffrey. Like they're ready to let Deebo Samuel go. The Niners. I think they put in his trade request. It's like, why? They were dynamic with him. Adding in an injured McCaffrey doesn't do anything for you. Like they're signing Brock Purdy and putting all their baskets in Purdy and McCaffrey. If you're looking on the NFC side, it's pretty much the Eagles right now. Maybe Washington. That could be a budding rivalry. Hurts versus Daniels. Get some good high-scoring offensive games going. I mean, just because Hurts isn't a prolific passer doesn't mean he's not a great QB. The guy has won everywhere. He's what Tim Tebow hoped to be. It just didn't work out, right?
Yeah.
So the Eagles, I mean, them coming back, getting a steal with Barkley, now they're kind of locked in. I think Brandon Graham, I mentioned he was injured. I think he's going to retire this year. I could be wrong. That could just be Michigan rumblings. But they're going to have some key pieces that are going to move on. But overall, that offense with Barkley and Hurts, I think even if they're going to probably keep one of Brown and Smith, if not both. You just can't have an offense with those 4 weapons. Like, that's kind of unreal. It almost reminds me of the Cowboys when they had Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irving. And then what? Moose Johnson? Like, that's almost the setup that the Eagles have right now, where they have a core group of 4 dudes on offense that are going to be just unreal going forward. And I just don't think that a lot of teams in the NFC are going to be able to match that. I just don't think they are. And so looking around, if you're going to be a coach, go to the NFC. The AFC is still going to be a mess. I don't think Mahomes is going to fall off. But I think we're seeing the tail end of this Chiefs run. And now another team has to step up. If the Chiefs somehow limp back to another Super Bowl, I think you just can't have the same team. I mean, maybe they'll win it again. They have 3 wins in 5 years now, 6 years. I think they've made it 5 out of the last 6 years. I could be wrong on that. But who beat them? The Bengals? Were the Bengals the only odd one? And they lost to Super Bowl II. But that's what you're looking at overall. It's like Chiefs are in it. Even with Mahomes, you're going to have some type of drop off. They're probably going to be in the playoffs, but now's the time for like Lamar and Josh Allen. If they're ever going to do anything, or heck, even if Burrow's going to be that guy and get back to the Super Bowl and beat Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and just be the second best QB, because I think that's kind of what you're looking at here. If Mahomes keep going to Super Bowl, none of those AFC guys can compare. You have to at least beat him one time. Like Burrow got there once, get there again. Get there again, and I would just chalk him in as the second best QB in the AFC. If you just look at Super Bowl appearances and it's Mahomes and then Burrow in the AFC, then Burrow would have to be the second best guy. If Lamar goes on a run and wins 2 Super Bowls or something in a row, okay, then you have a point. Or same with Josh Allen. You can't keep telling me, all these guys are MVPs. And then they're just winning. It's almost like a participation trophy. Hey, here's so-and-so's points or whatever, and then that's how far we're going to go. Like, these are the guys, and watch them. Like, why am I going to tune in to watch these guys? They're almost like an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he won 1 Super Bowl. They hyped him up forever, and then he kind of fell off. And I hope that that doesn't happen to Mahomes. Because then you're kind of just, what we have going forward? Like a big mix of just random QBs. Like, if the Chiefs completely fall off like the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers and then they kind of move on later, maybe. I mean, he did win more Super Bowls, so I think people would remember him fondly. But people are talking about like, 3 in a row. Man, it'd be great. Like, they forget that Jim Kelly had the Bills there, 4 years in a row?
Yeah.
So it's not like it hasn't been done in modern times that teams have been getting there. You just got to actually win it. And I think he would have had, they missed a year with Burrow that one time. I don't know. I was glad the Eagles won. I hope it resets some expectations in the NFL, just in terms of fan support and other teams out there and things like that. I hope that we get a little bit more even officiating, because it's blatantly obvious that some quarterbacks can just get creamed like Hurts can. And then like Mahomes, you can't even touch the guy. Every time they hit him, I thought that a flag was coming out. And that's not just something like I make up in my head. You get that feeling whenever you've seen the flags come before. It's almost like, well, here we go. Something bad's about to happen. Here's where they come back. But they just never came back. I know are you back now? I know you've been coming in and out.
Yeah, I'm back. My ongoing battles with Verizon.
I know. I started to read some of the comments I got. People wanted me to talk about on the show earlier. I wanted to make sure you're here.
Well, now hold on. There was 2 important things that I wanted to make sure that with the Super Bowl coverage and all the stuff that they had Jameis Winston doing with Fox Sports. Tell me that he's not going to be a perfect complement for Pittsburgh. They need a charismatic guy.
He's studio made now.
Perfect. Nope. He'd be a perfect fit.
He might upstage Wilson. Or did they make a decision yet?
No, they didn't make a decision, but I think that part of it's hinging on if there's any of the quarterbacks that are going to fall to him, which I don't know. You know, we've gone at length about the quarterback situation, and I'm not high on. I don't think that there's enough talent around to just plug and play a quarterback right off the bat.
We'll see.
I think you're dealing with for half the season you had Pickens like wanting out of Pittsburgh and missing games due to injury, behavior, attitude, whatever. You're still tied up with, do you re-sign Najee Harris or Jalen Warren or both?
Not when you can get Saquon Barkley in the offseason, bro.
Well, if you can get that type of player, then that may be a helper. But I mean, honestly, I don't think Najee is a terrible running back.
But he's not a game breaker. I mean, for all the crap I give McCaffrey,
then he'll go to like the Niners and win a Super Bowl.
Hey, McCaffrey hasn't even been able to do that. And everyone knew McCaffrey should have won.
AB pulled it off.
AB is my man, though. He's even running a successful ESPN competitor on Twitter. CTE ESPN. I just wonder, like, going forward for some of the Steelers stuff, it's like you got to make a move. It's too competitive in the AFC to kind of sit there unless they're waiting it out. Right? I mean, they could have learned from back in like the 90s where they were like kind of always close. You had a bunch of QBs out there that they would have to beat with like Cordell and Neil O'Donnell and stuff. They couldn't get it done. Maybe they're just like waiting until they can find a Ben Roethlisberger. Maybe they know they don't have anybody. Settle for a couple old vets. You can stay competitive, maybe get lucky. I mean, if you build defense. I mean, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Old Russell Wilson could do that.
Yeah, but
Matt Stafford almost did it this year. Matt Stafford almost
Super
did
Bowl,
it.
That defense was ungodly good.
Yeah, but Steelers have TJ Watt, dude. His brother was in the NFL.
I didn't know that.
You didn't see that commercial where they're doing Peloton against each other? So annoying. That's why I think the NFL, the one thing you talk about the production or whatever with Jameis, too preachy. That's why I don't think the TV ratings is real. Because casual fans, like people that you would interact with at work, normally talk about like, hey, I watched the game. Normal people that don't watch football, I haven't had one of them come up and say like, hey, did you watch the Super Bowl? Because it wasn't like a big thing. I don't think people watch the commercials anymore. You're just getting lectured, right? Snoop Dogg is in a commercial about name calling. Have people listened to his lyrics? Do they only know him from like TV? Half his album is name calling. I could go back and just find clips and probably put it on YouTube and probably get banned. Just because of some of his old songs that would not be appropriate anymore. But he's in.
That may be one of the funnier comments that I heard from the Super Bowls when you're like,
I mean, for real, dude. I could just copy and paste lyrics that he's put in his songs, and then he's like, yo, don't hate other people. It's like, buddy, come on here. Why are you in this commercial?
Read the room.
Pick anybody else. And then there was that one like girls flag football where they're like taking on the guys. Like, buddy, we've seen the debate about guys versus girls going on for a year, political or not. Like, you have to have your head in the sand to think that's a good commercial to put out there. And if the NFL paid for that commercial, it was like, what, $8 million a spot? They literally could have bought flags and equipment because flag football equipment is cheap. $10, dude. You get the flags and the cones. They could have bought equipment for the entire high school sports association in the country for the cost of that ad. That was just corny and like, I heard people say like, oh, that was such a weird commercial. I hated it. You think that's going to do favors for you to get girls to watch flag football? You think what the girls need for their sports is they need men to watch. You can't have only women. That's 50% of the country you're cutting off. And putting an ad basically shaming men. What casual guy is going to want to cheer for that? Like 100%. Show off. Heck, I could have went across the country. The NFL could have just said, hey, we're going to do a Super Bowl commercial. What's your idea? I would say, hey, go on Twitter, ask people to submit crazy football catches like flag football games. Because, I mean, women already play flag football. It's not like something the NFL just made up. Send me some of your best like female flag football. You know how like the old mixtapes on YouTube from like recruits? You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be amazing. Look at this recruiting tape from Max Preps in 2001. It's like grainy footage. People have high definition cell phones these days. I've seen crazy flag football girl moves. They could have literally just made a football commercial of real, actual footage and tried to get people hyped that way. And I think people would be more interested in seeing real stuff than some make-believe Happy Days thing. That's what it reminded me of, something like out of the 60s or 70s. That commercial. Awful. What about the halftime show? Did you like that?
If it wasn't as bad as what I thought.
Did you rewatch it?
I didn't rewatch it. I was there.
Well, what do you mean? Wasn't as bad as what you thought?
Well, when I had initially heard that was who was going to be performing, I thought, oh, like probably not going to be very. It wasn't going to appeal to me, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best halftime show that I've watched, but I thought with a new president and highlighting the stars and bars, they tied America in.
With the halftime show?
Yes.
Did he sing about America? I honestly don't remember that at all. Bringing in a mumble rapper to do a halftime show that is outrageous anyway. Because, like, honestly, and people told me not to talk about this on the show because he has a Pulitzer Prize or something, dude. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Why does that matter? I can't shame the guy. He has no good songs, dude. I don't listen to a lot of pop, but I would say most of the Super Bowl performers, I've at least heard their songs. I knew none of the songs he played. I was told these are my notes. He won a Pulitzer Prize, dude. He's more of a lyricist. Don't talk trash on him. You're going to get hate mail on the show. I don't care if I get hate mail. I mean, we already had Tony Dungy stalk us for 5 years. Like about John Gruden. I don't care. The guy, I couldn't understand any of the words he said. Right? People were saying, well, who would you get? Ice Cube. Right? You want to get someone that actually, has good songs that people know. Like Today Was a Good Day. Bro, you bring that out, everybody knows that song. I didn't know any Kendrick Lamar songs. And I've been to shows, dude. I've seen Soulja Boy live. Like, I've seen some of, like, other rappers that are, like... I mean, Soulja Boy's not even that new. But, like, some of these modern guys... Migos... I don't know what you'd get. But Kendrick Lamar has been so hyped up. And I've tried to listen to him. And I guess he was with Dre and Eminem and Snoop at that other Super Bowl, which I don't even remember him at all. The funny... Like, I remember the other guys. I remember 50 Cent. Because he came out upside down. And that was funny to me. But I still, like, he's the one guy from that halftime show that I didn't even know was there. Right? So you're going to give him his own show when easily any of those guys, Snoop, Dre, Eminem, even 50, has more iconic songs that normal people, like I'm saying casual people, you have to be a diehard rap fan to know that. That would be like going in and saying, hey, you know what? We should get a metal band. We should get Metallica to play. And someone in the back says, like, you know what? Metallica's a little too mainstream. We should bring in Slayer. Most people have no idea any Slayer songs. So to just say, well, people think Slayer's like the best metal band compared to Metallica. They think they're better. They're faster, whatever. You can't just bring them in. You got to have mainstream appeal. That show did nothing for me. Sorry, I keep coughing. I warned you I was sick, so I don't know how long I'll last. But I was very disappointed in the show. And then I saw, and people knew it was bad. It's been rated the worst halftime show of all time. Time Magazine did a Let's Help the NFL Save Face by writing this like piece that I read before the show. And it was saying like he broke the mold because it wasn't entertaining. It was more of a political statement. What political statement? I couldn't understand anything he was saying. And honestly, he's so small that I was distracted by the dancers towering over him. Like, it was just a poor design. That was one thing that stood out to me. Because normally the star is supposed to be in there. Maybe that was the point. I thought he had a Florida Gators jacket on too at first. And I thought, who is this guy? And then I saw that, I think it was in the Same Time magazine piece that like Lil Wayne wanted it. I'll be honest, do I know any Lil Wayne songs? Maybe. I guess I wouldn't know, right? I don't know any Kendrick Lamar songs for sure. Because if he was playing in the Super Bowl, he would have probably played his best stuff, right?
Yeah, you would think.
It's like Leonard Skinner going out there and being like, Freebird? Nah, not going to play that today, baby. Let's get into our deep cuts. Let's play, who knows what? I don't even know what some of their other songs are. Like, you're going to go in and just not play the hits. It's weird. That's what that show reminded me of. And like I said, I thought visually it was weird. Distracting like him. He had like flood pants on, right? Flood, what are they? I don't even know what the hell they're called. Bell bottoms? But they were like a short man. A short man should not wear bell bottoms. It was just an odd choice. I don't understand. Like, he had some bad advice before that Super Bowl. Like, I feel bad for like people that don't. You gonna write a diss song? People said that it was good because he dissed Drake at the show. I don't even listen to Drake. I don't even care. I don't even know any of Drake's songs either. I mean, he has a cell phone song, people say. I probably heard it, which is more than what I've heard of Kendrick Lamar, apparently. That's what I think, because I almost wonder if Kendrick Lamar, this Super Bowl appearance, is going to be looked back, and it would be like having the Backstreet Boys or something. Like some band in the 90s that people listen to, that they look back and they're like, oh man, that was awful. Like, why did I listen to that? But even Backstreet Boys is catchy. Kendrick Lamar wasn't catchy at all. I don't know what else to say. Write poems then, dude. Right? Do a book of poetry. Right? Don't do a halftime show. The backlash was so bad that I wonder what they'll get next year. Because it wasn't just me. I made sure I did research because people told me not to talk about the halftime show. That's how you know it's bad. When people are like, there are going to be trolls out there coming after you guys if you talk about the halftime show. Why? I like rap. Dude, do like what was the one hip hop thing I watched? What they did was they took like all the greatest rappers, like all the greatest hip hop songs from like the 90s, and they had like all these guys come out. I forget what the heck it was on. It was like one of my YouTube recommendations. And so like you have like them come out and they each do like part of their song, and it was like a medley as like a in memory of like hip hop. That's what the NFL should have did. That would have been awesome. But they wouldn't do that. Heck, put Wu-Tang out there. Their stuff's not really catchy. Wu-Tang's better than Kendrick Lamar. I mean, I don't know what to tell people that like that. But, I mean, I know that one Migos guy got killed. Just couldn't do Migos. That's what they should have did. That's not safe either, though. Bad and Bougie at the Super Bowl, bro? Going old school? Nah, that was like, what, 10 years ago? Who knows? Let's see. I talked earlier because someone said that Tom Brady looked sickly. Do you agree with that comment?
A little bit.
I'll be honest. I'm more worried about my man, JJ McCarthy.
I mean, he just looked vegan.
I saw
he looked like someone that just like he obsessively is watching his diet. And
he lost muscle mass, dude. He only eats fish. Does that count?
Barely.
I saw a JJ McCarthy like a photo of him in a sweatshirt now. He looks awful. I didn't even recognize him. Like, he's so pasty and lost so much muscle mass from his knee thing that I'm legit concerned about him for Viking fans going forward. It doesn't look like a guy that, like, if you compare the photo of him a year ago to now, like when he won the national championship, he was like, muscly. No, he lost all his muscle. He looks like Tom Brady now. And I was thinking maybe people are onto things. Another note I got. Did you see Tom Brady point to his watch at the game? Yes, it's a yes or no question, man.
No, I did not.
Because I didn't notice it either, and someone told me that I had to talk about it on the show. He pointed at his watch to show how much it cost because it was almost $1 million watch, and he made a little gesture to like show it off, and that his was much shinier than the other guys because he put it like right in front of his. And I was thinking, who watches a man's watch on the game? I didn't even honestly. If you would have asked me, did Tom Brady have a watch? I wouldn't even be able to answer that question, let alone that he was showing it off. So that's my comment to that. I don't know. I mean, he never got blown out in the Super Bowl, right? He's doing walks with Strahan through the street with like those weird New Orleans shirt with like a heart. I honestly thought it was an LA shirt at first, and then I realized like, oh, they're in New Orleans, aren't they? And then I saw that one girl. Did you see the girl in the stadium with her Patrick Mahomes voodoo doll that she kept stabbing with that needle?
Interesting. I did not see that, but I didn't. How did she get the needle into the stadium? I would think they'd have that on lockdown.
Well, I wonder if it was, they said, because it went viral, they said that those dolls are everywhere because someone was saying how racist the doll looked. And they're like, they have those dolls in every store. They all look the same. That's the pure voodoo doll. And I wondered if it was a wooden needle, but she was just sitting there just jabbing him the entire game. And I thought, if that worked, wouldn't the Saints have won more Super Bowls?
You can ask Harrison Ford if it works.
What, he get voodooed?
Yes. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So clearly he would know.
I thought you were talking about he got voodooed for real when he fell and hurt his hip doing Star Wars because he's like 100 years old. And they're like, you should bring you back in Star Wars as an action hero. Now, not only that, he's the Hulk. He's like Red Hulk. That's a guy I'm scared of, 100-year-old Hulk. Yeah, sure.
Dad strength Hulk. That is the scary one.
He has a bad hip, I know. That's where I'd shoot him first. He fell on the Star Wars set. The ridiculous things that people talk about with the game, so insane. And everyone's so into gambling now that it's kind of weird. And it has to hurt the sport. Because, like, right, there's going to be too many fixes at some point. It has to turn it to WWE. The Vegas isn't going to keep losing money. Like, if they keep losing, like, big bets, like Ohio State winning the national championship, like, they took a bath on that, bro. No one was betting on Notre Dame. They tried to move the line to make it more in, and they were even saying, like, oh, yeah, if Ohio State wins, we're going to be in a world of trouble. It's like, no. Very clearly, they were the best team that was left in terms of talent. Once Beck got hurt for Georgia, it was over. And so, yeah, now with the Chiefs losing, they probably got saved a bit because I bet a lot of casual fans were betting for the Chiefs. But if the Chiefs would have won 3 in a row, I think Vegas would have really been hurt. Maybe that's why Vegas was behind the Phantom Flags to get the Chiefs into the Super Bowl so they could win back their Ohio State money. They said, we know the Eagles will beat them. Could have been Washington.
But, with this Super Bowl, I was actually kind of excited that they didn't start the game at like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
I think the Super Bowl always starts at 6:30 or 6.
But, I mean, in comparison to the college football.
Oh, yeah, the college football time is awful. And they should just make it Saturday. That's what I don't understand. Because, like, I would have been willing to drive to Houston to watch Michigan play in the national championship. 100%. 100% I would have drove. But because it's like a Tuesday at 9 or whatever it was, or Monday at 9, it's like a weird day, like, to get travel and stuff. Everything wants, like, weekend packages. It's like, I don't want to be in Houston for a weekend. Let alone late Monday at 9 p.m. If it would have been a Sunday night game where you could sleep and drive on Monday, that would have been better. I know they're not going to compete with the NFL, the college football, that is, but they own Saturday. And the NFL didn't even have games that week. Wasn't that game like the same week that they only had games on Sunday? So they could have had the national championship game on Saturday as a lead-in to the AFC and NFC championship.
Yeah.
If I'm pretty sure that was the week if they would have waited a little bit or went early. That's what college should have did. Now, whether their TV ratings are made up or whatever, I don't know. And they're not going to get any better. ESPN has to put them on regular cable. They have to. Or they're going to do, I wonder if they're going to learn what Fox did. And they're just going to put it on ESPN and they're going to put it like on ESPN Plus. And then they can say like, look, this many people paid for ESPN Plus because people will. ESPN Plus is $5 or whatever, $10 now. But I would pay for ESPN Plus because it's easy to cancel. I don't want to pay for cable and jump through hoops to subscribe and then watch one game. Like, just give me a pay-per-view at that point. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
pay-per-view is going to be more money, but maybe not. That's what I think. Like, UFC, people are like, oh, man, it's not mainstream enough. It's like, yeah, have you tried to get a pay-per-view for that? It's garbage. Last time me and my buddies did a pay-per-view, the fight was over in 10 seconds. I was like, why did I pay for that? That's a bad product. Now, if it was like a season pass where you get all the pay-per-views or whatever, $20 a month, maybe. That way, if you have one bad fight, you might get a couple good ones mixed in, but I don't know. I think I'm dying here. But anything else you want to talk about?
Did you see any of the Strickland fight?
No, I did not.
Sean Strickland had a rematch and ended up losing. He got his face busted up pretty good.
I'll be honest, I don't even know who Sean Strickland is. Is this UFC?
Yeah.
See, that's my problem. I don't know.
Because he's pretty vocal with his opinions on just about everything. And
was he the guy that they were trying to get out?
He's one of them because he just continues to be the AB of the UFC.
Yeah, I think I saw Dana White like find him and told him like he must be the dumbest guy he's ever met or something like that. I know I saw that article, but I didn't know who it was. Because they have so many guys, they have to kind of promote a guy every fight or people aren't going to pay. That's why I said their model, they could have led. If UFC would have sold to like Netflix exclusive rights like years ago, before Netflix started getting into this boxing stuff, like YouTubers boxing, like UFC could have had a great market reach because Netflix could have got into it before they got into other sports, and then people might have been ingrained enough to follow it. But just being UFC puts like random fights on ESPN, but I don't know any of the people. Every time it turns on or pops up, I just skip it. Like having a guy like Ken Shamrock, like back when it first started, and then like Anderson Silva, like you have to have big name guys. Conor McGregor, like they don't. Who is a big name guy now? You need a guy that is a little crazy. Maybe Strickland could be it. Conor McGregor's always beating people up.
I think in comparison with them is one championship in Thailand, and I feel like their model is almost a little bit more closer. It's they have a lot of Muay Thai and MMA fights, but I feel like theirs in comparison to the UFC are more. There's a little bit more excitement. It's closer. I feel like it's closer aligned with what you would expect from a boxing match, where I think the UFC started to lose some of its steam when it evolved so heavily into the jiu-jitsu, where a lot of the match is kind of dull, where you're like, once they're taken down, it's like there's not as much action. But when you look at like some of the fights in one championship, they're doing a lot more stand up. You're seeing more heavier knockdowns and knockouts.
I don't know. I never even heard of that. Where is it? Where do you watch it? Do you watch it?
I watched it. I end up watching some of the fights afterwards on YouTube. Get it after the fact.
And that's probably the problem with them. That's why I think, like, I'm surprised that more people like, oh, there's so many streaming networks out there now. They're looking for content. Like that, was it Tubi or whatever? Or maybe I'm thinking of the Roku channel. One of them legit just has a Power Rangers channel that just loops the old Power Ranger episodes every day. And I thought, man, like, could you imagine if you just looped old fights? Right? Instead of just putting them on YouTube. Like if you had a channel that was just that, and why can't they? Right? They would get ad money, I think. Maybe you should reach out and write them. Become the new Dana White for them. Say, you guys should put this on the Roku channel. Pick your best fights. You could do something crazy and like overdub them with jokes like MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. Just make up like stuff. Like, his kidney's falling out. Oh, God, there's blood everywhere. And people are watching. They're like, what, really? Because you're flipping through and you hear some like guy just yelling the most insane stuff. Like that. That's what they need. I think you need a guy over the top. Help promote the league. But I don't know. I'm running out of stamina because my throat is losing it. So I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
And I'll probably get in trouble because Kendrick Lamar will make a diss about me. If he made a diss about us, dude, that would only make our show popular, probably. Although maybe he's not that popular. I don't know.
Oh, here we go.
Well, bro, who's that other guy that's always on the radio? Ed Sheeran? Bring him in. I would know his songs. They're not playing Kendrick Lamar at the Sheets, bro. When you're going in for your MTL, you're not hearing Kendrick Lamar there. Right? Am I right?
Maybe not.
So that's it. Thanks for listening. Send me your hate mail, and I'll see you next week.